All right. Hello, my name is Dylan Fowler. This is my project for my French culture deep dive with my. So I decided to interview a first generation American, former Cal Poly student, graduate in 2 years in wine and viticulture, my friend Elliott Delapre. Did I say that
Uh,
good?
yes, that was good. I'll introduce myself. Bonjour, je m'appelle Elliott Delapre. Like Dylan said, former Cal Poly graduate, good friend of Dylan. First generation American. Both my parents immigrated from France. Should I give more of a background or
Go for it. Go for it. Yeah. Tell me to give us a little bit of a background, whatever you want to say, then we can delve into our topics.
should I go into my parents' background right now or just
Yeah,
mine?
give a little brief background and we'll dive in a little bit more later on.
Okay, sure. So, I live in Huntington Beach, California. My parents immigrated from France when they were 23 and 25. They immigrated mostly for work. My dad had a job here. He's in the fresh fruits and vegetable trade. He worked back in France at a company that offered him a position in the United States, and he took it. And then after he was in the United States, he created his own company. And I was born here in 2002. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
And here he is. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
going to give you a little bit of a laydown of what we're going to do, and then
Sure.
we'll hop right into it. So,
Okay.
in this class, we cover various subjects regarding French culture and customs every week. So, the first week, we covered, Frenchness as a whole. What is Frenchness? Then we go to language, education, government, um, you know, problems occurring in France, all that stuff. So I'm gonna kind of give you a quick crash course every week. I'm gonna ask you a couple of questions or topics that we've covered so far. And then following that, we'll go into some questions I thought would be fun to ask, some stuff that I have interest in that I think that people want to know about French culture as a whole. So I'll just hop into the first subject here, which is our first week was Frenchness. And so my question for you is, what does it mean to be French?
Sure. Yeah. I feel like that's kind of a hard question to answer because I do identify as being French, but I uh, I certainly grew up in the United States and have like a lot of like kind of two different cultures. For me, all of my family lives in France, so my parents grew up about like maybe 2 miles from each other. So all of my family lives maybe, I mean, all of my family, like 99% of my relatives live within like a 50-mile radius of each other. And me and my sister are the only people of my family to grow up outside of that. So it's pretty interesting to see the different perspectives between that. Personally, for me to be French is a little bit to be a little bit different from my other classmates and friends because I didn't grow up with anybody who had kind of the same background as me. So I would say to be French is to be personally is to be a little bit different, and I guess I'd say like kind of pretty interesting, but depends. I'm not sure. Was that a
No, I like how you
sufficient?
took it like from your own personal angle, just like as it's your experience. What does it mean to be French? You took it quite literally, like your experience being French. So that's
Yeah, I mean
a good way of
I
looking at it.
yeah. I feel like if
That's
you
fair enough.
asked my cousins that they'd have a pretty different answer, but
Yeah, whatever answer is
yeah,
good enough. That's the whole
sure.
question. It was very open ended, even for us. Like I had to give my own perspective, and it was,
Sure.
I had
Okay.
no
Yeah,
clue.
of
So
course. Yeah.
that's good.
Would
I
you
like that
say to
answer.
be some weird guy named Elliot is to be
Yeah,
French?
sounds good. All right. Well, our second that was kind of our whole first week was just kind of getting into what is Frenchness, and that was just our
Sure.
intro to the class. But our second week we delved into the language of France, which is
Okay.
French. So, how did you learn French? And like, was it seamless for you? Did you, I'm assuming you grew up in a French household. you're
Mhm.
learning English and French simultaneously. Do you remember that experience at all? Or like, did you ever have any mix-ups in the language or like
Sure.
kind of
Yeah.
school stories, that kind of thing?
Yeah. I actually do have a pretty funny story for that because I grew up speaking French at home. Uh I to be honest, I don't really know how I learned to speak French. I mean, my parents spoke French. That's kind of the language that I grew up on. I get my parents used to always say that they would speak French when they didn't want us, me and my sister, the kids, to know what they were saying, but I guess we caught on rather quickly.
Yeah.
So I mean we grew up learning French until we went to school. And at school, I mean, like everybody else, they spoke English. And we spoke a lot of French at home because I think my parents like to speak French, and specifically my dad, with his business being pretty international, he spoke French a lot at work. So I mean, it's not like my parents were speaking English at work and then speaking French at home. They were just always speaking French.
Okay.
So when I went to school, I didn't I mean I knew English, of course, and I knew all that, but because I went to a public school, they were kind of worried about me not knowing English. I had to, up until like sixth, seventh grade, every year I had to take English placement tests in order to ensure that I had a satisfactory level of English, which was kind of frustrating as a kid, but it was
That's
kind of fun.
interesting, man. You know, to see how like just because you grew up in a French household, they put you in a different
Yeah,
category.
and yeah, I don't really know how that came about. I don't know if like my parents signed me up for that for some reason.
Yeah.
If the teachers were just like, oh, this kid needs to be in this.
Yeah.
But
Whatever.
yeah, I vividly remember taking those tests, and they were so annoying because they were like very basic
Uh,
English,
yeah.
which I was like, listen, like I know English, like I don't need to like, but I mean, it's an
Yeah.
interesting experience, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess my follow-up to that is, would you consider, I mean, what we read about a lot was that the French people in France, they're
Uh-huh.
very particular and like almost the worshiping of their language. They consider it like very much an art form. Like this is like our it's part of our culture. It's part of, it's the central thing that binds us and makes us, kind of
Sure.
as a whole. So do you think French is an art form? Or what is your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people would agree with that. I I don't know if I personally agree. Um, it's hard to say also from my perspective because my French is not perfect. I grew up speaking French, but I quickly transitioned to English, and although I still speak French a lot with my relatives, I don't I have an American accent. I don't speak perfect French. And I mean I get made fun of like just like my family members like poke fun at me and whatnot, not in a serious way, but they certainly do make fun of my French because it's not perfect, and I'm not good at grammar and stuff like that because I learned a somewhat informal French.
I was curious
But
about that because I would hear you speaking French on the phone with your parents, and I'm always like,
yeah.
sounds perfect to me, but I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean of course it's always like
Yeah.
that, right?
So
Yeah.
it's interesting to know.
Yeah, no, I mean I mean all my family members make fun of my French, and I mean I mean we're all pretty comfortable with each other. So yeah, we joke around about that, but I mean yeah, when I mean I've always thought about French as being one of the what is it? Like I don't know how many languages of love there are,
Oh yeah, that's kind of the love language, huh?
but yeah, there's
It's a very sexy
certain
language, I'd say. Yeah, it's a
yeah,
good way.
okay. I mean maybe yeah.
Yeah.
Um Yeah, what else was I gonna say about French? French is the I don't know, French is spoken in a lot of countries. Not just France, but I mean maybe
What-
because of rather unfortunate times, but in a lot of African countries,
Oh
French
yeah.
is the prominent language.
Hmm.
And I believe French is the world language of the UN. I'm not sure if you
Is it?
guys have.
I'm not sure if you're right about that. Maybe
I don't know.
I'll fact check that in my follow
Yeah,
up.
fact check that. Yeah, I think that's correct. But yeah, no, I think French is a really cool language. To be honest, actually, my girlfriend Shakti, I mean, you know Shakti, but she's taking French right now, and she asked me questions about French that I'm like, I don't know, and then I think about it in like an informal way, and I kind of intuitively know because it's kind of like a a first or second language for me.
Gotcha.
But I don't really think about it in like I'm not sure really how to describe it, but I don't think
Yeah,
about it
that's fair.
in like an intellectual, I don't want to say an intellectual way, but
Yeah.
it's more just like it's more like natural to me. So
Sure.
so yeah, I
Okay.
guess I guess we kind of answered your question there.
Yeah, yeah.
To be
More than
fair,
I did. That's
I don't
good.
know if I think it. I don't know if I think it's an art form. French people can be arrogant sometimes. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Fair enough. Okay. Here's a quick follow up I just thought of. Do you ever dream or think in French, or is that more of a fluent speaker thing?
I do sometimes. It's strange. Um, Often when I am either in France or just coming back from France, I will be thinking in French, and I've dreamt in French a few times. It's not common for me
Okay,
to,
it's happened.
yeah, it's mostly when I'm like always speaking French that'll kind of like that'll happen.
All right.
Thinking in French is more common, I think, for me.
Okay. That's fair. You know,
Yeah.
any amount of French I feel like is, given how much you've been around English, is like it's impressive how much you've retained it. And I guess
Yeah.
you get to go to France and touch up on it and use it full time. But yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
I
like
guess
for
it depends on
example,
who
like
did it.
my dad and I at dinner tonight, we only spoke French,
Oh,
but
really?
that's because it's more of a choice for me to try and work on it and practice
That's
it.
good. Yeah, just it's good to keep
Yeah.
flowing, which is
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not bilingual in the slightest, so I'm always jealous when I get to see people.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I never really worked at being
No,
bilingual.
it's just kind of the
Just
thing
kind of
you're.
happened. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess my kind of follow up, but question was just here's a stereotype I kind of wanted to debunk or just get to the bottom of is people go to France. I hear stories all the time. People go to France, they try and speak French. They're trying to order at like a order a baguette or something at a
Mhm.
restaurant, and then they're speaking in their broken, American or wherever they're from, kind of French accent, and the person from France, serving them would be like, "What do you want?" in English. They'll just, they can tell. They almost get offended.
Yeah,
You try and speak their language to them so broken.
sure.
Do you think that's like a very common thing, or just like, people over exaggerate their experiences there?
I I don't think people over exaggerate their experiences. I think that could be a very real experience when visiting Paris, but
Yeah.
not when visiting France. I
Okay.
feel like it's pretty hard to group an entire country by like one singular experience like that. It'd be like if a French person came to the United States and only went to Las Vegas and came back to France and said, my God, everybody in the United States is addicted to gambling or
Yeah.
prostitute,
That's a good way of looking at it. Yeah.
It's kind of a I mean, I say that because my family is from like a very rural part of France, and I visited Paris plenty of times, and even some people will pick up on my American accent and like not really give me the time of day or like be annoyed with me or something like that.
So it's even happened to you, even with your
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I mean that's kind of like just certain people in Paris are kind of have attitudes but I mean there's also a certain amount of like I mean, could you imagine if like you want to like get up from your apartment and go to school and on your way to school you run into like 60 tourists who are like asking you for directions and then one
Yeah.
like runs into you on like an electric scooter and you're just like trying to go to class like you'd be pretty pissed off too by
I
like the
mean,
end of
yeah,
the day.
it's good to look at it from both sides.
Yeah,
I feel
yeah,
like
for sure. I mean,
where we live, we don't get a lot of tourists. Not
yeah,
everyone from one country is coming to SLO and being like, where's
yeah,
the Eiffel
exactly.
Tower? There's no.
Sure. Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good way of looking at it.
But it's hard to say too because a lot of people in Paris, or I mean, yeah, Paris is like the most popular place to visit in France, are they really benefit from tourism because they either work in tourism, or they're somehow related. They get money somehow, they rent their apartment or other things. So it's kind of hard. In my opinion, it's hard to say that one side is correct or not,
Okay.
but I think for Americans specifically, who say like, oh, all people in France are like assholes and never want to talk to Americans. There's kind of two sides to the coin, in my opinion.
Okay. Fair
Yeah.
enough. Okay. Well, that about covers my French language section of our interview. We'll go into week three. We covered education. So I know you went to school in America, born in America. No real French education, but your parents were both born and raised in France. So I know you said you had some, information on their experience in education. So if you want to take it away from there and just explain, what they went through in their upbringing and how the French school system is kind of structured and it differs
Sure.
from the American school system.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like uh let's see, just the first thing that comes to my head when like comparing the two school systems is price, because all schooling in France is public schooling.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
there can be private schooling, but it's really not the same price as, or price difference as the United States.
Okay.
And that becomes really different when you get to the university and college levels. For example, like when we tell my cousins and all that, like that we pay, like, I don't know, like what is Cal Poly, like 30-40 grand a year, like.
Yes, maybe it's more like 12. I heard it's like 12 grand or something. I mean, plus like, living and all
Yeah,
that.
yeah, for sure.
Look it
Yeah,
up, you'll get all the different answers, but somewhere
of
around, I'd
course.
say 15, 20.
Depends what you count and all that.
Yeah.
But uh in France, like, if you pay like maybe 1,000 $2,000 a year for a good college degree, you're like a top spender. You're like,
Oh,
wow, you're
really?
blowing it out of the water. Like, wow, go you. You're like, yeah, it's like bring out the big bucks,
Okay.
because everything is free. Education is supposed to be free over there. So they're really shocked when we say that, like, oh, school costs this amount. But then of course there's differences too, because the salaries are higher. There's different comparisons, I'd say.
Okay. I guess I thought of a follow-up question to that was just like all right, did you ever consider going to college in France? Or like did you ever pitch that to your dad? Was ever like a thing you would thought about doing just because you knew the language, have history there, like change
Yeah.
options, thought about like
I
doing a whole
I
alternative college approach?
yeah, I kind of did for like um of a very short amount, because, but actually interestingly, I kind of looked into going to school in Switzerland,
Okay.
not France. Because there's a school over there in Geneva that I was kind of interested in. I like just visited Geneva, so I kind of thought it was cool. But
Okay.
that was also like in like freshman year, and I wasn't very serious about it. But no, I think the experiences are different as well. There's a lot of less like school pride in France too.
Oh yeah, people have big time college
There's
pride.
no like sports,
Hmm.
and like, so like I think the college experience is pretty different.
And did your parents both go to college in France?
Yeah, so my dad went to, actually, my dad went to a very so as I mentioned previously, my parents grew up in like rural France. My dad was accepted and went to like a comparable of like an Ivy League business school in France. He went for like 2 months and then quit because he like nobody was really like him. He was like kind of like from the countryside, and they were all like like
Yeah.
the bourgeoisie. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They were all like that. And then my mom went to teaching school, and she
Okay,
became
that's it.
yeah.
Okay.
So my dad went to that school and then quit, and then went and got like a 2-year degree program in business.
Okay. Is
Yeah.
the usual schooling there about 4 years college, like the typical?
Um, it's different because over there usually you go to school for 2 to 3 years, and you get like what would be equivalent to your bachelor's.
Okay.
And in the United States, I mean I don't know the statistic, but I would say like what 80-90% of people just get their bachelor's, and then like 10 to 20% get their master's.
Yeah. That's it.
Right. I mean, I don't know.
Probably a,
I
a fair assessment. I'm sure there's, some
yeah.
variations.
In France, more like 80% go and get their masters. To get a job in France, you pretty much have to have your masters, I'd say.
Okay.
So they do like about 2 to 3 years of like pre-degree schooling, which is like pretty general, and then you apply for your master's program, which is more specific, and you do that for 2 years.
Okay. Um, as far as like, high school, junior high, elementary school kind of
Hmm.
education there, do you have any knowledge of how that's structured there? Like what your familiarity is with it?
I don't remember all that much. Uh, Funny enough, I like spent time at a school over there. I went to school with my cousin for like a few weeks.
Oh, really? Okay.
Just like for fun. I think my parents just wanted to get rid of me and my sister. So we went and like did school with them.
Okay.
I don't remember though. It was probably in like second or third grade for
Oh, that's
me.
really young. Okay.
So I don't remember all that much. One thing that I will say is that they stress learning languages from a very young age.
Yeah,
So
I've heard about like everyone in Europe, I feel like can speak English to some degree.
yeah. Well, I mean, over there, like English isn't a second language. They learn French and English, and then they choose a second language.
Oh, so it's like required to learn the first two.
Yeah, so English is required from the get-go, and then they choose another language. Like me in high school, I learned Spanish. I don't know what.
That's what I did as well. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But for them it's like straight from elementary school, they're learning English, and then at a certain point, I'm not sure the point, they choose another language.
Yeah, that's a good. That's a.
And then yeah, and for them it's like really really I mean, I think it depends on the school, but for at least the school that my cousins were at, it's like really you have like a really intense immersion in the other languages. Like for example, you might have your science class in English where you're learning science, but the entire class is in English.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, that's interesting.
yeah,
All right. Well, that about wraps up my questions for it, I mean, as far as education, because I know you can only know so much given that you didn't get to experience it first.
yeah, sure, yeah.
We're going to delve into more of the political landscape and kind of modern issues and just the whole structure of French
Sure.
government and policy. So, I guess my first question is, how familiar are you with the French state or the was it État? You said it was
Yeah,
how
the Ita,
État. So
yeah.
État, and then just French government as a whole, the structure of it, and just give me what you know, and I can ask you some additional questions on that.
Um, I'd say my knowledge is decent. Uh, I know about current French issues from my family, my sister and my dad. They're pretty up with all those things. I can't say that I follow it as much, but I do converse with them when they bring up certain things. I mean, also when we're in France, we talking with cousins and family friends and all that, we certainly hear about the issues that they're complaining about and whatnot. So I can speak on that sort of. Uh,
When you
I also a lot of the stuff I know about the French government is from a more pro-capitalistic perspective, because my dad is a business owner, and also the people that we are pretty close with in France are also business owners. So
okay,
uh, I guess I do have a little bit of a skewed perspective on that.
okay. Yeah, we don't have to delve too deep. I just wanted to like, I mean, I'll ask, you mentioned they talk about some issues. Are there any issues that come to mind when you speak of current or recent issues regarding government or social issues in France?
Sure.
Any come to mind? I guess the one
Oh, should I speak about that, or I thought you were gonna ask me another
I
question?
was going to ask you that initially, are there any like that come to mind like when you're talking about conversing with
Yeah,
stuff?
sure. There are a lot of race issues. That's always been a problem in France, especially with immigrants and stuff like that. Aside from the race issues, the topic of money is always an issue in France, being a mainly socialist country. People have very strong opinions on what should be done with their money, what should be done with the state's money, what should be done with everybody's money. It's kind of an issue that can be debated, which is interesting to see because comparing the two systems in the United States, like we earn a salary and then we decide what to do with our salary. We do pay some tax, but in France, you earn your salary and like 50% goes to the state, and the state decides what to do with like 50% of your salary.
Oh, wow.
And I mean it's from a business owner's perspective, it looks like that because, for example, if you own a business in France and let's say I'm like, all right, Dylan, like you're like my best employee,
Yeah.
we really want you to take home $60,000 a year or 60,000 euros. It would cost the company 120,000 euros to send you home with 60,000 euros because we
Okay,
paid 50% tax.
gotcha.
And of course, that 50% tax goes to things like we previously talked about, like free healthcare or free university, free healthcare, your retirement is paid, things like that. But from an employee's perspective, you don't often see like the business's commitment to paying your salary, if that makes any
Yeah,
sense.
that's a fair way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, with that in mind, kind of going back to what you mentioned about the race issues, a
Mm,
big topic we covered, not so much, I mean, racially, but also just socially and culturally, is with secularism and
mm,
trying the French government's approach to saying religiously unbiased as possible, and the way they've gone about that in recent events has been like banning all religious attire
mm.
expression in public places. For example, like
Mhm.
I'm thinking like wearing a cross necklace, or the big one that's been an issue is the hijab and the Muslim religion, and just the
Yeah.
head garb has been a topic that has led to violent attacks and disagreements with French
Mhm.
people, along with you know, Muslim immigrants, and as you said, immigration problems in France, and just
Mhm.
stirring up some issues. So I'm not sure if you've heard any specific issues on that, or just what your take is.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we hear about all those things all the time. I did you guys cover the oh, sorry. Uh, they called it like something specific. I can't think of the name, but there was a woman wearing a hijab bikini on the beach. So like, did you guys talk about that at all?
Mhm.
It was like a big thing in France because I mean for a handful of issues, but uh I mean Muslim women, they're covered. So she wanted to go swimming and she wore kind of like a bikini material hijab, and she was all covered. And
Okay.
the police basically arrested her, or not really arrested her, but talked to her and were like, "Oh, you need to like wear a bikini, you know?"
Okay.
And to me, that's like specifically French, because the French are I guess you could say pretty sexual in their ways. I think
Yeah.
that's like a common stereotype.
Mhm.
And so that was like a big deal. And then, like you said, like they were talking about like, oh, okay, so you're gonna like make a woman be naked on the beach, but then you like won't let a little boy wear a cross necklace, like you mentioned. Stuff like that is always like a fiercely debated topic.
Yeah, rightfully so. I guess it's very
Yeah,
difficult.
of course, of course. I mean, I don't know if either perspective is right, but they certainly are very strong in their ideas about the separation of church and state,
Okay. Yeah, that's
which I don't really know where that really stems from, but I will say that growing up, I always thought that the what is it? What do we do like when we were kids?
the
About you're in like class and you put your hand on your
the
chest.
Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah, the Pledge of Allegiance. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You say in God we trust, right?
Yeah, one
And
nation.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, for me that was always weird because like I wasn't like a religious person or something like that, but I was like pledging to God every morning. I was like, I
Yeah,
don't know.
that I always found that interesting for people who were not practicing and all that kind of
Right.
stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And so like being French, like that was like that thing would like never happen.
Yeah.
And if they had kids pledging to God, like even in like a song or something like that, it would be like an uproar in France because they're so focused on like the separation of church and state. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, as far as what we've covered in class, as far as what we've covered in our course so
Mm.
far goes, we've gone over, the French, state, your perspective on that, your the recent struggles and conflicts within France with secularism and specifically the Muslim stuff. So I
Oh, I
figured,
just I just thought of something else that
oh
I
please,
wait, are we gonna move on from the Muslim stuff or no?
uh, I was going to, but if you have more to say,
I
please.
just I just thought of something. The French can be pretty racist, and it's kind of a I would say a common misconception that the Muslim people and all that are lazy. They kind of think that. Uh, I would say that the French think of themselves as pretty hardworking, and they commonly think that the Muslim and other immigrants come over and profit from the socialist system where if you don't have a job or if you don't work, you can get money from the state. And they think that they kind of profit off that, and they don't work. They call them lazy. They call them, a bunch of names. And also, there are kind of a lot of different like housing projects in France where you can kind of live for free, and like those areas often get like really groupy together where they almost have their own country inside of France where they kind of don't associate with French people. They're kind of their own communities. Like think of maybe like an extremist like Chinatown or something
That's
like
what I was
that.
going to compare it to.
Yeah.
It's interesting you say that because our recent topic was talking about absorption as opposed to assimilation of
Oh, sure.
Muslim um culture in France. That kind of sounds like they're not really, they're kind of just they're not being is assimilate. So I would say they're absorbing them, but not so much assimilating, like integrating them.
Yeah.
Kind of,
And
they have a spot for them.
yeah,
You can be there, but we're not going to associate or go
sure.
with you guys.
Yeah.
I also looked into a study just looking at hiring rates after an interview after asking
Mm,
about religious practices, and the rates were
sure.
very, a lot more Christians would get called back for interviews, and that's just one study, but there was just an example.
Yeah. No, I mean, I certainly believe that. I believe that 100%. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
And no, go ahead.
I was just saying it's interesting to see, all of it kind of play out in, because I mean I had no idea. I mean, there's all these issues. There's been issues within
Sure,
America with this stuff since 9/11, of course, but even before
sure.
that, there was some turmoil and whatnot. But I was never, because it was a big event in America. I wasn't sure there was some event in France that kind of, caused all of this. But I guess it's just, the culture is
Yeah.
on secularism, so I'm sure that's probably like their kind of root of the cause. But
I mean, there have certainly been pretty brutal terrorist attacks in
yeah,
France that were a big deal. But I mean, I don't know. I think that it was just the French people not being very accepting of immigrants inside their kind of cultures and all that. But it's strange because the French people kind of pick and choose, like kebab is like probably, I mean, I say probably with certainty, like the number one most eaten and appreciated food in France.
really,
I swear, if you go to like any town, any corner, anything, there's a kebab shop everywhere, everywhere.
that's fun.
And
Well, yeah.
and they love eating it. French people love eating it, but like, I mean, there's also like this like, I mean, there's also like jokes and like stuff about like the local kebab man, and like they like the food, but they like don't want to be friends with the guy. I don't know. It's kind
It's
of
funny you say that because when we have these discussion boards, and when I look at the discussions, I was just talking about the social kind of aspects of it, but then
Mhm.
one of my classmates mentioned, the architecture and
Mm.
she mentioned a couple other things, but the thing that really stuck out to me was like a lot of the I guess French architecture takes some Islamic or
Oh, I'm
Middle
sure.
Eastern
Yeah.
roots, and I was like, oh, I didn't even think about that angle because I'm sure they take a lot of their stuff and assimilate it into
Yeah.
the culture without I mean with how we're reading it right now without giving much credit to where it initially came from and just calling it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. No, I certainly agree with that. Yeah.
I'm gonna give you a heads up. We got about 2 minutes on here, so I may have to stop it and
Okay.
put
Yeah,
it
yeah,
up.
yeah.
Maybe we'll call this the end of the course questions, and then I'll stop it. We'll come back and I'll ask you kind of
Yeah.
the fun questions I had for you, and then we can wrap it up.
Sure. Yeah, whatever
All
works for
right.
you.
Okay, we're back from our intermission. And
Mm-hmm.
we're kind of done with all of our course related topics. So I'm going to go into some more, me questions I have for him, along with just interesting things that I think people should probably hear about, French culture. So I'm going to go in, I'm
Cool.
going to get right into it. So my first question is just, you grew up in a predominantly French household. We heard a little bit about your experiences in school and stuff like that, but when you would go to, your friends' houses, American parents, and like, did you see anything that like, stood out to you, or like, oh, we have that at home, or oh, we don't have that at home, just kind of things that any weird experiences or any, particular memories ever stuck out to you? If not, it's also perfectly fine.
Yeah, I'd say there's a few things. Um when I was growing up, my we didn't have like any like snacks at my house, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like if we wanted a snack, then you could like have some bread and butter or something like that.
Mhm.
Like that was your snack. So like when I go to friends' houses, it was always awesome because like
Yeah.
snacks and
Yeah.
stuff. I also had pretty strict parents. I never really like played video games or stuff like that. Uh, but now I'm a big Rocket League player, so
Oh, things
so that's
change.
pretty
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah. But no, actually, like on a serious note, I'd say the most like um different thing was that my parents like were very anti sleepovers.
Oh, okay.
That's like not a thing that
Yeah.
they like were interested in, or not that they weren't interested in, that they like just like outright refused. So I never had sleepovers.
Ever? I never had like an exception or anything like that. Or, like,
Um, I think the like first sleepover, or like, yeah, first slash only sleepover I had was my neighbors had a RV,
okay.
and we slept in the RV in front of my house,
Okay.
all of me and my neighbors, which like was like more like camping, I guess. but like if I wanted to like hang out at my friend's house, like I could hang out at their house late, but like my mom would always come get me. And my sister would say the same thing. We like always were like really upset because all of our other friends were able to sleep over, but we like just like weren't allowed to sleep over.
Did they give you like a reason for it, or just kind of?
I mean, honestly, they just thought it was weird. Like they didn't understand like why like American people would like want other kids to sleep over at their house and like why wouldn't you want to sleep in like your own bed and like stuff like that.
That's kind of how I am. I love sleeping in my own bed. I when
Yeah,
I hang out with my friends, I'm like, I just want to go home and sleep in
I
mine.
know. I
Well, you're
mean,
kind of like that now though too. Like you're like, I'm gonna go home.
yeah,
You're good about your sleep, so that's probably maybe
yeah,
it's.
no, honestly, come to think of it, like, I mean, I never really was like, yeah, I really want to sleep over. I mean, now I enjoy it. Like I mean, like obviously I'm gonna like if I was in slow or something, like it'd be fun to sleep over at your guys' place or like something like that.
Yeah. You're staying somewhere because you have nowhere else to stay. That's a whole other.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. I guess that's different, huh?
Yeah, but like that's interesting. Is that encompass most of your experiences, or is there any other outlying stories you can?
Um, uh, also like more food stuff, I guess. Like my mom always cooked for me and my sister. Like, so being over at like our friends' houses and stuff like that, it was weird to see like them get pizza or something like that because like
Uh,
we wouldn't get takeout or something like that. And my school lunches also, I Shakti like also like has immigrant parents. My girlfriend I previously mentioned also has immigrant parents, and like she will say like she had like really weird stuff with her lunches. So like I feel like she'll say like, oh, like I felt like embarrassed because of my school lunches and stuff like that. I always had like normal stuff. Well, I don't want to say normal, but like I'd have like sandwiches or like a soup or like something like that.
yeah,
But I would never have like Uncrustables or something like that. And I'd always
yeah,
be like sad because like all my friends would have sick things to like trade, like
you would
fruit,
trade them for it.
like what is it? What are those things? Fruit snacks.
Yeah, none of that artificial stuff, which is good though. I mean, that's none of that stuff is junk.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, now I know it's good, but like
Yeah,
it's
at the
young.
time, of course, you want to
Like,
have enough.
man, can I like have some goldfish or something?
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess
I think there's a good balance, you know.
I mean I'm sure you got your fair share of it, but like a lot of kids probably oversaturated in that stuff, and that's probably one of the good side. I mean, I'm sure none of it's negative, it's just different, but like
Yeah,
comparatively
exactly.
to at the American upbringing, a lot of kids probably had all this junk that it's probably good your parents can cook. A lot of people's parents,
Yeah.
it's like you take it
But
for granted
also, I
at the
mean, there's like my cousins in France like really like Starbucks and like McDonald's and stuff like that. So as much as it's like a French thing, I think it's like also like a generational gap thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
Old French thing, I guess.
Yeah, that could be it. Okay, well, I guess
Really?
just sticking to the French cuisine topic,
Uh-huh.
I have a couple things to ask you about that. Is just what do you think of, traditional French cuisine? Like, is that like one of your favorite types of food, or is just you just kind of because honestly, when I think of French food, I think of, bread, baguette, croissant, and like cigarette. I don't know. Like
Yeah.
I can't think of
Red
like
wine.
yeah, wine. Yeah, wine's a big thing too. But like as far as like if I went to like a French restaurant, I don't know what I would like, see on the menu. And I just maybe I just haven't had like legitimate French food. Like, what is your
Yeah.
perception of it, or just like
Well, I mean, French food is like the best food in the world. Like in my opinion, it's like undisputable. And I
oh
think a lot of chefs would also say it's like undisputable because even not French food is like French influenced because like French is just like fine cuisine and like cooking,
yeah,
like the techniques, the like food and everything. But I think it depends because like you said, I mean, you don't really know French food
no, I feel
specific.
like yeah, but that's also just me. And it's like a me problem. I don't think it's like everyone's.
No, but I mean, even I'm sure you've had a French food before that you just like were at like a nice restaurant or something.
Oh yeah, maybe.
It is French, but you just don't know it's French. You know what I mean?
Okay,
Or
well,
like
Sorry, keep going. That was
No, I was just gonna say it's like French influenced or like something like
okay. I guess like is there like a staple French like I mean when you think of Italian, it's like pasta or like
yeah,
Japanese, a lot of the stuff is like, seafood based. Is there a sort
sure.
like this is the dish of France you can think of?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I think it depends. French food, like I mean, geographically it depends because where we're from, it's kind of near the coast, so there is a lot of like seafood influence and stuff like that. But it depends where you go. Like if you're in the south of France, like there's a lot of like rabbit and stuff like that. If you're on, or no, maybe like I don't really know geography that well. South of France would be more like seafood as well, but like warmer seafood, I guess. Like more
Okay,
like fish instead of like shellfish.
gotcha.
Then there's like different parts where it's like a lot of like rabbit stuff and like I mean crepes are like so like
Oh
classic
yeah.
French. But
I haven't had your crepes before. They're pretty good.
yeah, I mean interestingly enough, where we're from, Brittany, the like kind of rural France, that's actually where crepes are like from.
Oh really? Okay.
So a lot of people think that crepes are like Paris and like all that stuff, but they're actually they're from where we're from.
Okay.
My favorite type of French food is like peasant French food, which is like, or I don't want to say peasant. Um, what is that word? I'm like blanking on the word. There's a like specific type of French restaurant that is like made for like manual laborers, and it's just
Okay.
like like food that can be easily made in big batches. And like if you were like a French like manual laborer or just like common laborer,
Okay.
just like go there. Also, food in France and lunch breaks in France are like very like respected, I guess.
You know what? It's funny you mentioned that. Like we were talking, I can't remember what week it was, but we talked about a Frenchman's like lunch break. It'd be a bunch of Americans working with a Frenchman. They go, "Oh, let me just take lunch really quick. I'll be back in a couple hours." And they're like, "What?" They take lunch very seriously. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
glad you mentioned that. Yeah, that's a good.
Yeah, no, that's like very common. And like also like drinking at lunch is like a must because like how are you gonna go back to work if you haven't drank?
Yeah.
And then what is the word? I'm gonna take a brief intermission here.
Okay. Here, while you look up that word, I will. I guess I'll ask you just from those ones you mentioned when you're looking that up. Like what is your like those big batch, common worker meals or a specific dish that you're like thinking of like that's the one I like the most. That's
I
my
like oh yeah, the word is bouillon.
bouillon.
Bouillon. It's like a very like a commoner French restaurant where you go there, you get like your like half a bottle of red wine, and you get like they probably have like maybe like five dishes on the menu, a lot of like stews or like a big piece of meat in a cream based thing or like a big piece of meat and mashed potatoes or a big piece and like things that'll like really fill you up so you can go back to work,
Okay, yeah, that makes
but
sense.
like for so cheap.
Oh, it's like almost like fast food, but like
Yeah, it's like fast food, but like honestly made food, and like they make it in big portions, so it's
yeah,
like kind of like economically smart, but it's like really good food still.
that's how I like it. Good
But
for you, but also not running up.
yeah, not like, and it's not like snobby-ish too. It's not like, and you just get like a bowl of it or something. It's not like fancily plated or like something like that. It's just like here's your food and off you go. Or I mean, not off you go. Actually, you stay there for like so long talking to people.
2 hours and you head back.
Yeah.
And, does your family have any like recipes that you guys make that's like traditional French or just
Yeah, actually, we were just my dad was just talking about that at dinner. We have some family. Oh, Larry and Svantia. You know Larry and Svantia.
yeah?
Larry and Svantia are coming down for Thanksgiving, and my dad said that he's gonna make cassoulet, which is like a bean and sausage and rabbit stew
Oh wow.
that has like a lot of animal fat in it, so it's like really tasty,
Yeah, that sounds good.
and like a lot of beans and big sausage and I, yeah, I guess it's a stew. It's not a very liquidy stew though.
I'm glad you mentioned Thanksgiving. This made me think, have you had like traditional Thanksgivings, or do you do a more so French spin on it, or
Whoa. Yeah, I
yours?
mean, it's interesting you say that because we've always celebrated Thanksgiving with Larence Fontia.
That's right.
Fontia is German, so she doesn't really do traditional Thanksgiving, and Larry doesn't have any family here, so it's like a very hodgepodge Thanksgiving with like a bunch of like random
That's fun though. Like I like,
foods. We keep it like pretty like we have a turkey and stuff like that, but like the appetizers are French and every or German or whatever cuisine you want. It's kind of
yeah.
all over the place.
Okay, that's interesting.
Mm.
As far as French food in America, have you
Mm.
noticed like, I guess I think I remember one thing in particular I remember is I'm not sure if every Frenchman agrees with this, but just the fact that croissant sandwiches are an abomination to like
Oh yeah, obviously, yeah, clearly.
yeah, like I mean
Well,
personally I like croissant sandwiches. I'm a stupid American, isn't that?
yeah, I mean, Shakti had me try a croissant sandwich recently, and I did enjoy it. It's just like it shouldn't exist, is the thing.
Yeah,
Like,
it's like an insult to the art of it, I think.
well, I mean, it's just like, I mean, like it's like a sorry, it's like a donut hamburger. It's like what,
Yeah,
you know?
that's true. It's like a pastry you put a piece of meat in between.
Yeah, and it's like okay, donuts are good, hamburgers are good. Why do we need to combine them, you
But
know?
those are also a thing,
I mean, of
People,
course they're a thing because I mean, like
America.
everything's a thing, but yeah, I mean, it's like you have hamburger buns to make hamburgers, you have
Yeah,
bread to make sandwiches. Why are you cutting up a croissant and sticking meat in it to like, you know what I mean?
that's true. Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it.
I mean, I mean, everybody
Yeah.
has their own opinions, but
There's always different comparisons or like, variations you could look at it with. Is a croissant a bread or is it a
no,
pastry?
it's not a bread, it's a pastry.
Yeah, I guess.
There's there
No, I guess
I just get so upset. No, it's not.
All right. I'm glad I
Uh
could, I'm glad I could hear. I guess if we broaden that out a little bit, like just French cuisine in America as a whole, like have you had good experiences, bad experience, or just like people who
oh yeah, I mean, good experiences, I mean, as long as you're going to the right place, right?
last time I was at your house, your dad brought home a bunch of croissants, and I'm not sure where we got them from, but
Oh yeah, that's a good place. I mean, yeah. See, I was gonna say it just depends. Like, if you're buying your pastries or any French food from a French person, they're likely gonna be good, and
yeah.
that bakery is owned by a French person.
Okay.
So
I was assuming he would source it from somewhere French was my assumption.
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like I've had Costco croissants before. They're fine. It's
Oh
like
yeah, I had a lot of those in my middle school days. I think my mom.
yeah, they're like a really good deal though. You just get like a huge thing for like so little.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you were able to like I was wondering about those croissants in specifically like I figured your dad would probably go and
Yeah, I mean,
somewhere
yeah,
where he
but like
roasted because
French food in here, like there's a really good restaurant that we go to maybe like once every 2 months or like once every 3 months
night
in
out.
Newport Beach. That's like a really traditional French restaurant.
Okay.
That's really good and we really like it. But I don't know. I'm sure my dad has gone to bad French restaurants.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
I haven't here.
Well, that's good because you have positive experiences aside from
Yeah.
donut hamburgers, but
Yeah, I mean that's just like it's just clearly not a thing that you would do.
Okay. Well, we'll move away from the cuisine stuff now. I got a few more. I
Yeah,
got
before
a
you
few more
make me
questions
upset.
here. Yeah, I don't want to get you too heated, so we can move on. Um, I know you've been to France many times, so I guess I'll just ask you, what's your? Everyone goes to Paris, but I know you have your spots you like a lot more.
Yeah,
Your parts of the country.
Paris.
Or, you
Like,
know, then what's your opinion on Paris? Putting it lightly, I should say.
um, no, I mean Paris is fine. Paris is cool. It's like, I mean, it's a tourist spot, you know. Uh, we have family friends who live in Paris, and they've shown us spots that are really cool, but I think it's hard to get that experience when you don't know somebody who's lived there like a long time. So I feel like you would traditionally just go to like the touristy spots, which are cool. I'm sure they're cool the first time you go. I mean, the Eiffel Tower is certainly impressive. Every other spot that is like popular is cool.
Yeah,
But I think it's a one and done type thing, you know?
yeah.
Uh, for me personally, the place where I love going to in France is where my family is from because
It's called Brittany, is that you said?
yeah, I mean, well, we're from uh we're from like the very edge of France. There's like I mean, I don't can you picture like a map of France?
Yeah, or like just I'm picturing like a European map. So it's the edge bordering what
There's
country?
kind of like a tip that
Yeah,
France makes, like it like goes out like this.
yeah.
We're literally at the very tippity tip. If you look up
I'll
Brest,
pull up a map really quick and maybe I'll put it on as a key. But okay, yeah, yeah, I know what you're talking about. So
B
you're like right near Germany, or
uh
is it northern?
no, over the ocean.
Oh, okay, okay.
B look up Brest, France, Brest, but with no A. Then you're gonna get a different result if you
Okay, I see what you're talking about.
see right there. See like the tippity tip over the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's where my family's from. Kind of a
Gotcha.
little bit up above that, like 30 minutes above that.
Okay, maybe I'll put a visual key, a cue in the.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll put
and
a picture of the map in the paper, just as a little
yeah, I
piece.
can send you pictures too if you want.
Yeah, please, if I can put some visual
Yeah,
at the end.
there are like incredible places over there, and I mean it's like anywhere, right? It's like not a very touristy place, so like it's a
Yeah,
pretty
there's cool spots in every town. Even my town has some cool spots. But
yeah, exactly, and it's just things that you know if you know somebody who lives there or if you've personally lived there, you know, you discover it on your own.
okay,
But that's my favorite spot in France, just because of the like both the family aspect and the nostalgia aspect. I'd say it's just really nice for me.
okay, fair enough.
But I would also recommend for tourists to go there. Just
Yeah, people
maybe
should
not as
probably.
long as I go there because it get boring after a while,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
the beaches are incredible. It's just like nature and incredibly pretty.
Okay, that's
And they have
perfect.
castles too. The castles are really cool.
Really?
Yeah, I mean there are castles everywhere in France. You know, they're like near there you could probably buy a castle like probably like 14 rooms, like 10 bathrooms for like 500,000 euros or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean
Castle owner?
yeah, it's gonna be like
You
it's
can
gonna
like,
be like in ruins and you have to like redo everything.
yeah,
But
but
like
in castle. So,
yeah, and it's probably like you could probably get like 20 acres or something.
oh wow,
Yeah, because there's just nothing around there. And it's all
that's
like
cool too. Because I mean, America's roots go. It has ancient roots, but
oh,
it's not as
that too. Um, there are crazy like historical things over there. Like right next to my grandparents' house, there's this like big rock that has like an engraving in it. And like we always like hike by it and or like just walk by it. And just like 5 years ago, I was like, hey, I mean, what the hell is that rock anyways? And it was a Roman road marker,
Oh, like from the
but
Roman.
like the Roman Empire, the
Yeah.
random rock. that had like some like random engraving and like kind of chiseled or whatever. It
Yeah.
was a Roman Empire road marker. Isn't that
Wow.
like insane?
That's pretty nice. And it's just like sitting there and there's no,
Yeah, and for them it's just like, oh yeah, that's just
just
like
one of the
down
things.
the street.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
crazy.
Yeah, there's always good, everywhere you go. There's
Oh
spots,
yeah.
there's historical spots, there's just little, restaurants that I'm sure there's always if you go to the Paris Yelp and you look at, go to all these spots, but you can find food just as good for, because
Oh yeah,
it's
that's for
locally
sure.
owned and super old. The people owning it don't even know how to like get on Yelp. So it's just,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and,
yeah,
and
yeah.
their food is,
And
high.
their regulars are just like the people down the street who just go there because it's
And they're not
like,
going to share it because it's going to be all saturated with,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
ordering baguettes. So fair enough.
Yeah, and making
Why they
croissant
wouldn't share it.
sandwiches and
Okay. Well, I'll ask you a couple more questions here
yeah,
I think we got 10 minutes left.
already. What
We
the
did
heck?
kind of, yeah, we went pretty long on this, but that's good. I mean, if you got stuff to
More
share,
content.
share
Yeah.
it. So, the next question I'll ask you is there any common misconceptions that people have about the French and their culture, or is everything spot on,
Uh, it depends. I think it's hard because um to give another comparison, it's like you wouldn't compare someone from like San Francisco to like someone who lives in Alabama, right? Like
Yeah, that's a good way.
it's it's kind of incomparable. And France is a smaller country, yeah, but there are big like cultural differences depending on where you go in France.
Okay.
So
Like you say, your parents are from the countryside. They're probably not much like the people in like your dad in
yeah.
college, and he wasn't like the people at school. So it's the same.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain stereotypes for everywhere, and I'd say that certain stereotypes are correct depending on the place, but it all depends, right?
Yeah. Okay. Well, we don't have to delve too deep into that one. I guess this last question for you is what keeps you, the most tethered to your French culture, whether it's, the food you go and, you go to the local bakery, French owned bakery, or just
Mm.
speaking French at home, or is it talking to your French relatives in France? What do you think keeps you the most tethered, or just like a combination of all this stuff?
I yeah, I guess saying that combination would be like the easy answer because I guess it's a little bit of everything, but I'd have to say it's like speaking French either with my like close family like
Yeah.
over here or speaking French with my relatives because I mean my relatives my younger cousins speak English and speak English pretty well to where we could like have a conversation but my older family does not speak English and they can't be bothered to speak English because I mean why would they they
Yeah.
live in a little place and do their own thing but no I'd say it'd have to be the speaking aspect.
Okay.
Not maybe not like directly from speaking, but being able to like intimately converse with French people.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I guess like a quick follow up to that would just be is what's your favorite part about being French? Is it just having those intimate moments with your French relatives, or just
Yeah.
or just
I guess
the
I'd have to say.
exoticness people look at you with, like, oh, you're French American, that's awesome, that kind of stuff.
I was gonna say the food, but then you guilted me with the whole family aspect things.
Okay, well, food too. Food's great. Can't go
Um, I guess deciding between my family or food.
wrong. I'm
It's
hungry,
tough.
so
Yeah,
depends on
exactly.
my mood. Catch me there.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's everything I have to ask you. If you have any other, last tidbits you want to share, now's the time, in the next 6 minutes and 17 seconds before my Zoom runs out again. But if not, we got more
I
than enough. I think we got more than enough
You got enough? Okay, cool.
content
I
and
mean, yeah,
information.
I don't know what else I would share. I think those were good questions because
Okay.
I mean,
I had fun interviewing you and learning more about your
Yeah,
culture.
I had fun
I knew
being.
some of this stuff, but oh, you know what? I completely glazed over.
Uh,
Just really quick, if you want to give me a quick rundown on your parents coming to America, like their
sure. I mean, yeah. I mean,
if
I
you want to
think
do a 3 minute abbreviation of it. I know it's
I
a long.
kind of briefly went over it, but yeah. I mean, my parents grew up next to each other in France. They weren't friends when they were young, but they met later on. Uh, as I said, my dad went to business school in France. He got a job selling shallots. How do you say that? Shallots, shallots,
Shallots, whatever you want to call it.
shallots.
I think it's
Yeah.
shallots here, but yeah.
Wait, how do you say it?
Shallots.
You say shallots. Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. In France, and then my mom was a teacher in France. She went to school, became a teacher. She was teaching in Paris. My dad had a job back where we're from. Uh, then my dad got offered a job by one of his customers in the US who was importing Chinese garlic.
That's right. This is the shady business you're telling me about.
Yeah. So then he offered him a job. My dad took it, came over here. Well, basically my dad told my mom, he was like, "Hey, like listen, like I'm going to the US, like I gotta go, like I'll not like what do you want to do?" And she was like, "Well, I mean, I guess we got to get married then," because my mom didn't like France all that much. She was like ready to get out of there.
Okay.
And so then they came over here to Arcadia, uh, near LA.
I've heard of that, yeah.
And
I've heard of Arcadia
yeah,
briefly.
yeah, yeah. It's near, yeah, it's kind of LA Long Beach
Yeah, I
area.
don't know LA geography that well, but yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah, you've
SoCal.
heard of it. Yeah. So then, like you said, it turns out that garlic business was a little bit shady. They were like
Dang.
mislabeling the garlic in order to not pay taxes on it. Saying it was Californian grown garlic, but it was Chinese in order to get lower taxes. And pretty soon my dad realized that the whole thing was gonna blow up. So he left and created his own business while my mom was going to school to become a seamstress and like fashion designer kind of, because she didn't want to teach in the US. She was kind of over that. So
And
then she was
she was
learning
here, she
that.
was doing like theater stuff with UC Irvine, right? She was
Yeah, that's where she ended up. So after she graduated, the stuff like that, she first worked in TV, like wardrobe and TV and stuff like that, and then she went to theater and teaching and like helping and whatnot, the theater departments and all that.
okay.
And I mean, we're kind of like going backwards, but anyways, the business that my dad made, he escaped the shady business and that whole thing blew up and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then he created his own business and he did a lot of business.
It's the same business today, right? The same one it
Yeah,
started.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. They're like 35 years or something. I don't know.
Going strong, it sounds like.
Yeah, he's just coasting. Yeah.
Good enough. All right. Well, and does that about cover it as far as the
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's
there's a lot of stuff in between, but I see here
sure.
two,
Yeah, I mean,
and so
you don't need to get
I
into
don't want
all
you
that.
to get cut off too early. But
No, yeah.
we'll call it there. We had a lot of stuff to talk about, so
Yeah, I know. You're gonna
no
have
more than
some
I thought I would
reviewing of
ask you
our
about. But I want to have a lot of questions, and I want to make sure that we had enough content. But
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
maybe I
And
went
and
over. But
don't
it's all
don't
right.
feel bad like cutting stuff out in your paper.
Okay, yeah,
Just
I'll try and generalize stuff in the paper. Try to get the important bits from.
yeah, do the important bits. Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
had a lot
Whatever.
of jargon in there, but I think it's important because it's the podcast. So
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's the format. So we have to have some fun in there. So that was
Yep.
fun. Hopefully I can see you soon, and I'll let you know how
Yeah,
this
I
goes.
know. I'll oh, we're still recording. Okay, I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, I'll end the recording. I give you the last. Everyone, thank you for watching.
Yep, thank you.
Goodbye. Bye, Elliot.
Bye. Thank you for having me. This was an awesome podcast.